Hello, everyone. My name is Dred, and welcome to Mist Valley Entertainment News. We're going to cover a little bit of musical news here. I have not watched this video yet, but I'm going to react to a video by Rockfeed called Jon Bon Jovi Addresses His Heartbreaking Singing Issues. If you're at all familiar with Bon Jovi, especially in this later part of their career, you will know Jon Bon Jovi. There's been a lot of talk about his voice. And I'm interested in what he's got to say on this. I mean, I was a big Bon Jovi fan back in the day. Slippery When Wet and those kind of albums were huge in my youth. And I still am a Bon Jovi fan in that sense. I think even later in their career, they had some great hits. Have a Nice Day was a great little song. Things like that. But I feel like as they've gotten older, and I've kind of gone back and I've listened to what they sound like now live, and I've gone back to their older albums, I've been able to see that I don't know if Jon Bon Jovi was ever a quote-unquote great singer. He's definitely a good singer, but I don't know if he was ever great. Seems to me his ability to hold notes and things, a lot of times there was a lot of overdubbing of vocals and things on the album that made it sound like he would draw things out longer than I think he actually is able to. Yeah, I just feel like he's a good singer, but not a great singer. And it's just interesting. It's nothing wrong with being a good singer, especially when you make millions of dollars and make millions of people around the world happy. Don't get me wrong. But I have gone back and looked at it with a little bit more critical eye. And I'm really interested in what Jon has to say about what's going on with his singing voice. So we're going to pop into this. Thank you to Rockfeed for this. And this is my reaction to this video.
Jon Bon Jovi, truly one of the greatest rock singers of all time. Some of the biggest hits in rock music history.
Just a slight mismatch of his lips and the words. Sometimes it happens.
Living on a Prayer, Wanted Dead or Alive, You Give Love a Bad Name. And he's really known for his
Love is a Social Disease. Great song. Great song.
Over-the-top vocal performances. He was recently honored at the Music Cares Person of the Year event. Well-deserved. But Bon Jovi, unfortunately, back in 2022 made headlines because videos were circulating showing him dealing with some very serious vocal issues. He appeared to be struggling greatly to perform his music, and it went viral. Bon Jovi went to address these issues head on. He's been working with medical professionals to recover vocals, and he was very vulnerable when asked at a Polestar Live Q&A about how he planned to deal with this. And he spoke at length, and he really had a powerful response on essentially saying, look, if I can't be great, I'm not going to do this anymore, which would be heartbreaking to see him step away. I think he still has a lot to offer, and I hope that he can continue to perform. But we're going to also be speaking to a vocal expert who talks about the real arduous recovery process associated with vocal injuries. And
so has he had an actual injury? I'm kind of curious. Like, does Jon Bon Jovi actually have a vocal injury of some kind? Or is it just he's aging and his voice has changed? Or, it could be a lot. I mean, I don't know with Jon, but I mean, it could be a lot of times it's weight, gaining or losing weight and those kind of things. Any other health conditions can, cause issues with the lungs or the diaphragm or or the throat at all. And it may not even be in the voice box itself. There's all kinds of different things that can affect one's voice. And when your voice is, your weapon, when your voice is what you use to make money, that's pretty heartbreaking. All right, but let's keep going with this.
What it means for the artist. We're going to have him joining us in just a moment, but I'm going to read to you what Bon Jovi had to say. I thought this was a very candid response from him. I really liked what he had to say about this. This is from Ultimate Classic Rock. I've linked to their coverage in the description. So Bon Jovi was asked during this Polestar Live question and answer session. He said, it's become public knowledge now, but I've had major reconstructive surgery in my vocal cords.
And I wonder when that was. I wonder if that was after 2022 when he was coming under fire a little bit for his live performances. I wonder if he then went and had major reconstruction, or he had that earlier and that caused the issues. I don't know the answer.
And I never had anything like this ever. So it's been a difficult road, but I found a doctor in Philadelphia who did something called medialization because one of my cords was literally atrophied. Sometimes people get nodules. That's pretty commonplace. Sometimes deviated septums and things like that have take their toll on the cords.
Yeah.
The only thing that's ever been up my nose has been my finger. So it's been very difficult this last decade to have to
I actually have trouble believing that, but I'll take him at face value for it. Sure.
contend with something that was out of my control. So he notices this last decade that he's been dealing with this. He continued later on. He said, my health has been first and foremost a topic of discussion, but I'm well on the road to recovery there. If I can't be great, I'm out. And I think that the documentary that we're about to put out addresses all of this.
And I admire him for saying that. We'll see if he ends up sticking to it, if he even has to stick to that. But at some point, yeah, I mean, if you're a singer in a band, there's a good chance your voice is going to change significantly a long time before the guitarist's fingers are going to give way, before the drummer's wrists and elbows and shoulders give way. You know what I'm saying? Like, your singer is more likely to start to wear out, to have wear and tear before those other guys. Your singer is more likely to go down in quality before the other players in the band. More likely. It's not impossible. It goes the other way. So I'm of the opinion... first of all, it's up to each individual, but in a situation where you're a singer and your voice starts to deteriorate, what do you do? What do you do? My opinion is, at some point, if it can't be reversed, the band calls it quits. In the meantime, you're like, hey, my voice is what it is. This is my band in a live performance. I'm sorry, but this is how it is. Just be aware before you come out. Things aren't going to be perfect pitch to what you hear on the albums, right? This is me now. And then, again, at some point, if the voice gets too bad, I think it's time not just for the singer to call it quits, but for the band to say, okay, the band is now done. We're not bringing in another singer. We've had too many hits with this guy. We're too far along. We're not doing that. We're not kicking him out and replacing him. He is part of the band. The band is retiring. That's my opinion, but you may see that differently.
It's called Thank You, Good Night for a reason, and we'll determine what happens there. But we do have this incredible 4-part documentary to celebrate the 40th. We have a brand new record that I'm very excited about, and the hope is that I get to go out and celebrate it this time because I'm so excited by it. But if I can't do it at a level I've grown accustomed, there's no harm in that. And Bon Jovi is absolutely correct. He's had an amazing career, and I hope that he is able to go out there and sing his heart out like I know he can. And so I'm hoping this recovery goes well. But I don't really understand how these recoveries work, and I have an expert here on the line that does. So joining me now to talk about this is David Benitez. He's from the Extreme Vocal Institute. Check out his lessons at the link in the description for all things vocal coaching. Now, David, when you go through something like this as a vocalist, it's got to be terrifying when your instrument doesn't work. He went through an arduous process of recovery. I can't imagine what that felt like. We saw that video of him performing where, he seemed to be struggling significantly within the last couple of years. I felt for him because that's out of his control. It was obvious he was going through an injury. One of the greats, really one of the all-time greats, and now he's gone through this process to recover, and I'm really hoping he pulls through. But what does it mean for an artist to go through this, and what do you have to do to recover?
I mean, really, it's the day that no one wants to see come, but sometimes it does, especially depending on the era you're from, too. And it's really tough when it does like this. And I think it's amazing the things we're able to do medically now and the way that people are able to get fixed up in the many different situations that people see now, because everyone is so different. And even this case is very specific, too. And it really, because of that, comes down to just rest, proper rehabilitation, like working with professionals to make sure that you're taking very slow, specific steps to get back to where you want to be.
Recovered from a knee surgery, right?
Want to be, and
same
find
kind of deal.
Workarounds for anything that may or may not be possible anymore from that point on. And it's interesting how this stuff works sometimes, because much more intense injuries can happen like this with just regular singing, even softer stuff, more mellow stuff, depending on who you are and your age and the way that you're doing it. And if there is a good knowledge base behind.
Yeah, having proper knowledge of the proper way to sing. I want to say a lot of people who sing and even sing professionally, at least when they start out, probably don't have that actual knowledge. They haven't gone through a proper vocal coach to learn how to breathe, to learn how to pitch things, to learn where to sing, whether it's head, throat, chest, diaphragm, whatever, and when, and how to change between those, how to get proper rest, recovery. They have to learn a lot of that themselves. And some of them, I mean, Axl Rose is a great example. Axl Rose had a tremendous singing voice when he was young. But really, when we all listened to him, we knew he was going to damage his voice. We all knew it. We 100% all knew it. Whether we actually vocalized it or not, we knew. And you look at him now, he's apparently had surgeries as well to just enable him to continue singing. Can he sing still? Yes. Can he sing well? Debatable. Does he sound anything like he did before? Maybe 10%. And it's a pretty sad situation, and I feel like Axl is probably still at high risk of damaging his voice even further just by doing what he does. And that was a man who, even though he had a very peculiar and his singing style was his and his alone, he probably really, really could have used vocal coaches very, very early to instill in him, even if you're going to sing this way, there are some proper ways to do it, which probably would have helped him out a lot, and he probably didn't get that. Anyways, let's go back to what they're talking about here.
Behind what you're doing, but especially with the kind of stuff that we're both involved with here, with heavier rock and metal music, like and for me, working with people on different stuff for screaming and really intense, extreme vocals, there are so many amazing ways now to both work on being able to like soothe things if anything does flare up, if you do feel yourself go a little too far at any given time. But there's also tons of ways to make sure you don't even hit that point in like just in the first place now.
And that's brilliant that you mentioned that. The recovery process is honestly, it's got to be, I've seen other people I know, I think John Mayer went through something like this, Chad from Nickelback as well. I think they both had some sort of procedure like this. And I wonder, if these procedures, what do you think the success rate is in them? Because I imagine that the vocal cords are really kind of fickle. You're not sure if it's going to work or not. It seems like there may be some risk associated with this. I don't know.
The human voice is able to do so many amazing things, and that ranges from all like the melodic aspects of singing to, like, again, like I mentioned for what I do here, like the amount of different ways that screaming can be done and the total amount of options that there are. But with that being said, it's a delicate structure and it is easy to push it too far, which is why learning what your own limitations are and learning how to operate within your comfort.
Singers, if you want to be a professional singer, you really need to find yourself a vocal coach. Even if you're like, but Dredd, I can sing fine. Find yourself a very good professional vocal coach who will work with you and teach you the things you don't know, because you don't know everything. And the more you learn and put into practice, the better off you'll be, the safer you'll be, and the more likely you are not to do permanent injury to your voice.
Comfort zone and how to safely navigate outside of that properly when you want to, so that you can push things, still have the fun you want to have, express the way you want to express, and just let's go crazy, while knowing that you can do those things within the kind of limit that you know you have in a healthy way, not in a way where it feels like, oh, I can only do this amount and that's kind of a bummer. And when it comes to things being this delicate, it really, something I wanted to mention, especially when you reached out to talk to me about this, is the fact that a lot of injury for people like this, especially those that have been touring for a long time, doesn't even necessarily have anything to do with what's happening on stage. It's actually what's happening off stage, both before the show and after, and what the actual vocal maintenance and routine is that you're using to make sure you're keeping yourself in the kind of condition to be able to do this job every day, which, whether it's metal music or not, can be very demanding. And every case is super different, and everyone's, I'll say, vocal responsibilities end up being so different, which is why it's really important to align yourself with information that's going to work for you and stuff that you can follow, or just working with professionals that are out there that are here and able to help with these sorts of things, people on the medical side of things as well, if you do find yourself in this kind of unfortunate spot where things have been pushed a little too far, to be able to kind of manufacture solutions for yourself.
That makes sense. And I wanted to ask you too, I know that something that artists frequently encounter, vocalists.
By the way, if you haven't subscribed to the channel yet, please consider doing so. I'd really appreciate it. Drop a like if you liked the video, and don't forget to drop into the comments. I read everything, and I do respond to as much as possible. Thank you so much. Back to it.
Is what would you, what, I know probably every instance looks different, but I feel for people who are out there and their vocals break down when they're on the road. All these people have signed up, and I've had people explain this to me. It really is a tough thing to go through, where you're out on the road, people have bought all these tickets to come to shows, and your voice starts breaking down, and you really don't want to, how do you deal with that when that begins to happen on the road?
That it's a tough one when you are like at work and you feel your ability to do your job slipping. It's a scary thing in terms of like what that means for the band, like financially, if you have to cancel shows, and what that means for the fans that have been like looking forward to shows for a long time, because that does happen pretty often depending on the direction you're looking at. And also just for yourself, like the anxiety of feeling like you can't do your own thing and like be yourself accurately. It's a deeply personal thing, and it's always really troubling when you feel those moments on tour when things start to kind of betray you a little bit, or you feel the ability starting to slip a little bit from like fatigue or any sort of like little injuries or anything like that, which is why the way that you manage your days on tour, both before and after set, ends up being so important. And that's not to say necessarily living super like robotically and rigidly and not enjoying yourself, because I think a huge reason why we do this in the first place is because we want to enjoy ourselves, we want to express, and we want to connect with people. We want to let that be a purely organic kind of experience. So we don't want to feel like we're living with these kind of limitations, which is.
But being a singer is being an artist, of course. And I do appreciate the arts very much so. We support them here at Miss Valley Entertainment News, my other channels, Miss Valley Mods, Miss Valley Gaming, and my Miss Valley Discord, as well as Miss Valley Gaming 01 over on Twitch. We do support the arts. I consider gaming to be an art. I consider game design to be an art. I consider music to be an art. With your writing a book or an article, this is all forms of art to me, and I do completely support that. Now, I'm going to have to give you a little piece of advice here for you vocalists out there, and this is not any kind of paid advertisement, but the Ken Tamplin Vocal Academy is a great example of a place you can go and hook up with a professional vocal coach. This guy is one of the best that I know, both at what he does as far as singing, and he's a great guitarist too, great songwriter, and also in teaching. He's and he shows off his students and what they're learning in videos and stuff. It's really, really great. You may be interested in knowing, it's nothing to do with his talent necessarily, but he is the cousin of Sammy Hagar. Ken Tamplin is, and he's had a fairly successful career himself in Christian rock. And if you don't appreciate that right away and you get turned off by Christian, that's fine. Ken can and will sing and teach anything. So go check out some of his stuff if you're a vocalist and a singer. See the stuff he's doing, the way he teaches. See his students learning things and showing off their skills, and maybe consider popping in and talking to Ken about joining his academy, or maybe you get some advice from him or someone there on his site about somewhere in your area where you could find a really good accredited vocal coach. Because if you're a singer, your voice is your weapon, and it's your pride, and it's your art. You need to learn how to take care of it. Don't think you can just learn on your own. You're going to do yourself damage at some point. Learn from a professional and save yourself a lot of heartache. For Miss Valley Entertainment News, my name is Dread. Thank you for Rockfeed for allowing me to take a look at this video. And good luck to John Bon Jovi in your recovery. Good night.